actually have it. So could we take it out so at least understand? 'Cause I don't know. Look at it and say, and it's not, I just they don't understand what's going on. I'm trying to find
Okay. Let's have my name on it.
That's right.
Oh, I feel you. I always thought it was progressive. Whispering voice.
That it all fits. So,
Are you saying it's excellent that I'm not in class? How should that fairness not reasons could be bad.
he's the youngest.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for all of you coming out here. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Okay. Hello? Can you hear me in the back? Yes? Okay. Oh, they're nodding. They can. So. All right, we're going to start the meeting. Please let the roll call show that Counselor Haggerty, Kuntz, Perry, Spitz, and Gordon are present. I believe Ms. Sullivan is on her way, should be here shortly. Second item on the agenda is agenda review. I don't believe we have any. Third item on the agenda is approval of minutes of September 14th, 2015. I'll take a motion for that.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. Any comments or changes on the minutes?
I have a question on that request.
I'm
Does
s-
the public have a right to say anything?
No, not on the
No,
minutes.
excuse me, ma'am. Not yet. I will set the ground rules. Thank you.
I asked a question.
That's okay. All right. Hearing nothing from council, all those in favor of approval of the minutes? Passes unanimously. We have several public hearings this evening. We will work through them as efficiently as we can. And you're encouraged to speak if you have anything to say at the public hearings. And we will set some ground rules when we get to the comprehensive plan. But so I'm going to start opening the public hearings. Public hearing A, to consider a vitulers license for Bell's IGA, 6 Stillwater Avenue.
Good evening, folks. My name is Dave Mylan. I'm the Economic Development Director, and I oversee the offices of planning and code enforcement. So I'll be here talking to you with staff recommendations this evening. I've never been known to be quiet, so I didn't know that would actually be needed. Regarding your application for Bell's IGA, the staff has done all the inspections. Everything's up to date, and they recommends approval.
All right, does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of vitulers license to Bell's IGA? Right, hearing no one, I will close public hearing A and move on to order 15172, order approving a vitulers license for Bell's IGA, 6 Stillwater Avenue. Could I have a motion, please?
Move.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments or questions from council? All right, hearing none, I'll take a vote on order 15172. All those in favor? Passes 6 and a little bit. Public hearing B, to consider a vitulers license for Max Convenience Stores, LLC, doing business as Circle K, number 7089, 53 Main Street. Dave?
Going to sound repetitive, but all inspections have been performed, and staff recommends approval.
Great. Does anyone wish to comment on the issuing of this license? All right, seeing none. We'll close public hearing B and move on to order 15173, order approving a vitulers license for Max Convenience Stores, LLC, doing business as Circle K, number 7089, 53 Main Street. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All right. I'll take a vote. All those in favor of order 15173? Passes unanimously. Public hearing C, to consider a vitulers license for Max Convenience Stores, LLC, doing business as Circle K, number 7021, 2 Stillwater Avenue. Dave?
Again, inspections have been performed. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Anyone wish to comment for or against the license? No. Right, close public hearing C, move on to order 15174, order approving a vitulers license for Max Convenience Stores, LLC, doing business as Circle K, number 7021, 2 Stillwater Avenue. Take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any comments from council? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on order 15174. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Public hearing D, to consider a vitulers license for Brewers of the North, doing business as Aroma Joe's, 99 Park Street.
All inspections have been performed, and staff recommends approval.
All right. Anyone wish to comment for or against the issuing of this
I
license?
have a question on that. My understanding was that that was a coffee shop, not a liquor store.
Oh. No, it's a vitulers license, so it's for food and beverages. It's
Selling
not for
food.
liquor.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Close public hearing D. Move on to Order 15175, order approving a vitulers license for Brewers of the North doing business as Aroma Joe's, 99 Park Street. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously, I think. All right. Public hearing E. To consider a vitulers license for Ledbetter's Orono, 232 Main Street.
Madam Chair, this is actually a new, first-time license, a new business, and all inspections have been performed, and staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do they know when it's going to open?
They're open.
Okay, great. Anyone wish to comment for or against the issuing of this license? Hearing none. Close public hearing E and move on to Order 15176, order approving a vitulers license for Ledbetter's Orono, 232 Main Street. I have a motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Any comments?
This was formerly a Big Apple?
Yes.
Correct.
Has the nature of the business changed at all?
No, it's changed the same for right now. The plans are that in 2016 that the building will be removed and with a new building that's consistent with other Ledbetter stores.
All right, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of 15176? Passes unanimously. Public hearing F. To consider a Class 1 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license and vitulers license for S&M Corporation doing business as Thai Orchid, 28 Mill Street.
All inspections have been performed and staff recommends approval. There was a earlier question about a conditional approval, but that's not necessary as the issues were resolved.
Okay. Anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? Close public hearing F. Move on to Order 15177, order approving a Class 1 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for S&M Corporation doing business as Thai Orchid, 28 Mill Street. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
All right. Anyone have any comments? No? Yes? No? I saw you pushing your button.
So does that mean all taxes have been paid?
That's correct. That was taken care of.
All right, I'll take a vote on Order 15177. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 15178, order approving a vitulers license for S&M Corporation doing business as Thai Orchid, 28 Mill Street. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Right, any comments? All right, take a vote. All those in favor? Order 15178. Passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearing G. To consider a Class 1 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license, special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment, and vitulers license to Cutler LLC, doing business as the Family Dog, 6 Mill Street.
All inspections have been performed and the staff recommends approval.
Anyone? Oh, Bob? If you would come up and we need to recognize you. If we could have your name and
Is
address.
the Family Dog big enough to have dancing and entertainment in the inside? Or is it going to be out in the parking lot so all of the neighbors have to hear it?
So the dancing and entertainment is part of a special amusement permit, and businesses are required to get special amusement permits for even minor things. I think Bob is right behind you, and he could speak to what he has used it for, but in the past it's been with bands, jazz ensembles, for brunch and things like that, so not necessarily big wild parties and dancing.
Yeah, but even if it isn't big and wild, if you've got alcohol and everything, I mean, you do have a senior complex very close. I do question it for that reason. I mean, neighbors, public in this town should have some consideration, not just the businesses.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. We'll take that into consideration. Bob, do you have any comments?
Yeah. Hi. My name is Bob Cutler. I'm the owner of the Family Dog, as well as a couple other things. But in the past, we've used our entertainment license. Definitely not for dancing. I have no rhythm, so it's not really dancing. We use it for trivia nights on Thursday night, every night at 8:30. Get about 25 people. I don't think it gets very wild. We do a Sunday morning, well, Saturday and Sunday now. We do brunch from 9 till 2. It's wildly successful for me. Allows me to hire 2 more full-time staff people. It also employs 2 musical acts, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Seasonally, they are outside on the deck. In full disclosure, we've had 1 noise complaint since I opened the deck, so that's been 2 years. Sorry, we've had 2 noise complaints. One, I knew we were going to get a noise complaint, and I kind of gave a heads up of I'm probably going to get a noise complaint. The other one kind of surprised me. It was 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Maybe somebody was hungover. I don't know. It was country music. Maybe they don't like country music. But it was within the noise ordinance policies as we did the noise test and everything else. I am mindful of that. I have the decibel meter app on my phone. I know it's not a approved thing, but it's a good guidance that we use. If it does start to get loud, I do ask the acts to turn their music down. I have moved the bands back inside. Starting this weekend, I moved them back inside, which is a little unfortunate just because, this past weekend, pretty busy in town. So I have to give up 6 seats, but I think that's important to do because of, it's what the customers want. They want to be inside listening to music instead of outside listening to music. So we have moved the acts back inside now. That does mean Saturday's supposed to be 57 degrees, sunny with no wind. They could easily back outside, but then we just go back to our same plans. And again, we've had 1 noise complaint on a Sunday. In 2 seasons, I think the deck opened. It opened a year ago, June. So I don't think that's a terrible track record. I think we're pretty responsible for it.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
And you're going to stay consistent to your current policies? You don't have plans to change things?
No, I'm not a big, well, Wednesday we're going to talk about some changes at the planning board.
Right, but with respect to
To the
music.
current music, no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We may do more music, but it won't be after 10 p.m. It won't be, it'll fall in line with the same thing, but we probably will have more music if the planning board gets approved with our changes on Wednesday. But again, it's style of music that I appreciate, and it's also summertime, and it's different things in collaboration. I like to think of myself as a very good neighbor. I probably communicate too much with people. They know what I'm going to do before I do it. So if there's a problem, we can adjust to it. But I like the idea that 2 years ago we won Best Family Restaurant. And that's something I strive to win again. So I know that I have to walk a very fine balance in everything I do.
Great.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Time to speak and appreciate the responses.
Does anyone else wish to comment for or against the license? All right, I will close public hearing G. Move on to Order 15-179, order approving a Class 1 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for Cutler LLC, doing business as the Family Dog, 6 Mill Street. Have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second?
All right, any comments from council? No? I will take a vote on Order 15-179. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Order 15-180, order approving special amusement permit for music, dancing, and entertainment for Cutler LLC, doing business as the Family Dog, 6 Mill Street. Take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Any comments? All right. All those in favor of Order 15-180? Passes unanimously. Order 15-181, order approving a Vichler's license for Cutler LLC, doing business as the Family Dog, 6 Mill Street. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll take a vote on all those in favor of Order 15-181. Passes unanimously. Public hearing H, to to consider a Class 1 malt spirituous and vinous liquor license to the University of Maine, doing business as Collins Center for the Arts, 5746 Collins Center. Dave?
All inspections have been performed. Staff recommends approval.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak for or against the issuing of this license? All right. Close public hearing H. Move on to Order 15182. Order approving a Class 1 malt spirituous and vinous liquor license for the University of Maine, doing business as Collins Center for the Arts, 5746 Collins Center. A motion, please?
Move approval.
Second.
All right. Any comment from council? Right. Take a vote on Order 15182. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. And moving on to public hearing I, to consider a Maine Municipal Association Model General Assistance Ordinance, Appendices A through D for the period of October 1st, 2015 to September 30th, 2016, to be in compliance with Title 22 MRSA, Section 4305, subsection 4. Sophie?
Good evening. Pursuant to Title 22 of the Maine Revised Statutes annotated sections 4,301 to 4,026, all municipalities within the state of Maine are mandated to administer a program that provides for the immediate aid of persons who are unable to provide for the basic necessities essential to maintain themselves or their families, local welfare. Each municipality in our state is required to adopt local ordinances to regulate the program. In our community, this is codified in the Town of Orono Ordinances, Chapter 16. The town's program must not conflict with the standards put forth in state law, and in order to ensure compliance, the town has adopted the 2008 model ordinance written in a cooperative effort between the Maine Department of Human Services and Maine Municipal Association. State statute and the local ordinance refer to program maximums within the general assistance rules. These program maximums are the maximum allowed overall need and need-specific assistance that the general assistance administrator is allowed to provide qualified recipients on a monthly or weekly prorated basis. Since the maximums change from time to time, they are codified in appendices to the adopted general assistance ordinance. State law requires that municipal officers, in Orono's case, the town council, review and hold a public hearing on the maximums proposed by the Maine Department of Human Services and MMA each year prior to adopting appendices A through D. These appendices cover the maximum maximum overall allowed monthly assistance, as well as maximum monthly assistance allowed for food, housing, and electricity. The town council could elect to adopt alternative assistance levels for housing. However, it would first need to conduct a community-wide housing assessment in a manner that was acceptable to the Maine Department of Human Services. The proposed ordinances, appendices A through D, for the coming year reflect little difference from the prior year. Councilors received copies of this, and they were posted on the web. But in general, since council always asks what the differences are, the overall monthly maximum increased an average of $37.20. That's broken down by family size, or 3.9%. The food maximums were unchanged. Maximums for housing with heat included increases and an average of $45.80 or 8.7%, and housing without heat went up an average of $34.20 or 3.9%. The only change to the allowed maximum electricity assistance was for single-family households, single-person households with electric hot water, which increased $4 or 4.9%. And I can answer any other questions you have.
Well, first we'll go to the public. Is there anyone that wishes to comment for or against the adoption of these general assistance ordinance? All right, seeing no one, I will close public hearing I and move on to Order 15183. Order adopting the Maine Municipal Association Model General Assistance Ordinance Appendices A through D for the period of October 1, 2015 to September 30, 2016, to be in compliance with Title 22 MRSA Section 4305, subsection 4. Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Our order and the wording for the public hearing both refer to appendices A through D, but there's actually F, E and F. Why are those? Has it always been this way and I just never noticed it in 15 years?
It has always been this way. Those are the
Okay.
only ones you have to adopt. And I think part of it
Okay.
has to come with F is E. I'm sorry,
E is heat
E
and
is
F
heat,
is
and it's by
childcare.
gallons, and that has in the 15 years that I've done general assistance, that has never changed. And the other one is personal supplies, personal and household goods, and when that one changes, you'll see usually it's an A through F when they make adjustments to that.
Okay.
So there's been no change.
But are we not adopting E and F?
I'm using the language that was provided. If you wish to adopt E and F, you could amend the order and we would be just fine.
It seems like we ought to adopt all of the appendices and
Okay.
not just 5 of them, but like I said, maybe it's always been this way and I've never noticed it in
So,
15 years. But
We could be wild and crazy and adopt
Okay.
all 7 of them tonight.
So,
Right.
so if we don't adopt them, the ones that are there remain? Is that the answer I'm getting? Or?
They will remain, and
Okay.
I mean, the thing that's kind of interesting about this process is you could adopt what you wanted to, but if we didn't use the guidelines that have been provided, we won't get reimbursed at the 70% level, which is what the state law says we'll get reimbursed at. So they've codified what they're going to reimburse us at, and now you're saying that it's this wonderful public process to just adopt what they said.
So I think Tom is right, is that E and F haven't changed, so that's why we don't have to re-adopt them, because
all right.
But I'm good with you.
if you would like to.
I'm just curious.
Why change it now after 15 years?
Anyone else have any other comments? No? All right, I will take a vote on Order 15183. All those in favor? This is unanimously. Moving on to public hearing J, to consider a credit enhancement agreement between the town of Orono and Star Properties LLC relating to property within the Orono Downtown and Transit-Oriented Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District located at 5 College Avenue. Go ahead, Dave, that was a mouthful.
Madam Chair, again, I'm still Dave Mylan, the Economic Development Director. I'm just going to give you a highlight of the agreement, so you can go forward from there. This is the TIF district is the Downtown and Transit-Oriented Municipal Development and Tax Incremental Financing District. You'll see why I just call it the Downtown TIF. It was most recently amended in 2010. The credit enhancement agreement allows for property owners to invest a minimum of $7,500 in their building, and for 50% of the new property taxes to be returned to the property owner for a 10-year period. The University Inn, this applicant that's before you this evening, their 2010 building valuation was $548,400. Their 2014 building valuation is $1,076,300 for a net new value of $527,900, or in tax revenue terms, $12,590.40 per year. Since they would be getting 50% of that back to them, it's $6,295.21 for the year, or $62,900 over the 10-year period. I'd be welcome to answer any questions anyone might have.
All right. So this is a public hearing. Does anyone wish to comment on public hearing J? Seeing no one, I will close public hearing J. Move on to Order 15184, order approving a credit enhancement agreement between the Town of Orono and Star Properties LLC relating to property within the Orono Downtown and Transit-Oriented Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District located at 5 College Avenue. Could I have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All right. So we've talked about this a lot in committee, but does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Have there been any changes made to the TIF document after the workshop?
No.
Okay. So then I do want to speak to this.
Okay.
Okay. So I can appreciate if staff doesn't agree with the policies as laid out by council. And I can even appreciate if council is confused at times about what we've said we agreed to.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, but at the last workshop, we had a discussion that explicitly talked about the difference between an incentive TIF and this TIF. And this is a return of taxes, right? So this comes right from the general fund and it goes back. It's not for incentive. And as such, in the wisdom of council, when it derived the policy, and I'm going to say, when it derived the policy, it recognized and put a qualifier on that said we're going to restrict certain purposes, and we want to make sure it goes to those purposes. This TIF does not follow the policy. Now, I could appreciate also if council said our policy's wrong, and we want to change it. But that's not what we've done at this point in time. We have a policy that's pretty explicit. I was at the workshops, I was at the policy meeting, and this is when my inner economist comes out, and you know, whenever my inner economist comes out, Evan, that this was an incentive-based. And so council, when they did this, and I can explicitly recall that we said instead of just giving this $63,000 back, we want it reinvested in the community. And we want guarantees that it's reinvested in the community. This TIF agreement doesn't do that. So staff might disagree, and staff might not like that it was set up that way. And council might still be arguing about what it said, but until we come to an agreement about what our policy is, I don't think we should put in a TIF that we don't know if it's consistent or inconsistent with our policy. And we didn't remedy that since the workshop, to my knowledge.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, yes, correct.
Evan Rickert, town planner, and I was involved pre-Dave in this policy discussion and creating the document that was finally adopted. My understanding, both of what was intended in the TIF district and what we've done and what we understood the committee, the council was saying, both at committee and in public session here, was not exactly what you are indicating, Councilor Haggerty. We knew from the beginning that this was, yes, incentive-based. The idea was, the need was to upgrade the building stock of downtown, the commercial building stock of downtown. We all, I mean, I think everybody agreed to that quite readily. We created the Downtown Development District in part to have an underlying tool to be able to do that. The ultimate tool to do that is called a credit enhancement agreement, which allows the municipality to return a portion of increase in taxes, not what's gone by in the past, of increase in taxes as a result of physical improvements made to commercial property after the adoption of the district. Now, the credit enhancement agreement, the standard credit enhancement agreement that we're talking about now and that this property owner is trying to utilize, came about 4 years after, or 4 years after the establishment of the district. It happened that about 4 property owners took the initiative between the time the district was established and the time we got the credit enhancement agreement tool in place to improve their properties. So we had very explicit discussion at the time that there would be a retroactive portion of this that would affect those 4 or so properties that looked like they were going to meet those thresholds, that they would have invested at least an X amount of dollars to create at least $7,500 of new tax revenue, and that they would then be eligible. It was a retroactive provision. It was very clear that we would do that. We discussed it, and that's how it ended up. This is the first of those to come forward. I think there probably are something like 3 others that could be eligible. Don't know if they'll come forward or not. They're generally very small amounts, but they may nevertheless do that. The alternative to not doing that was to, our concern was one of basic fundamental fairness, that because we didn't get to that tool after the district was created in time for a few of the property owners who were pioneers, frankly, in trying to upgrade their facilities in downtown, would be penalized. We discussed that, and our understanding, at least when the policy was written, that the council was
Okay, so
agreeing. I don't think there was any confusion about that at the time.
So I'm going to read the language, because I'm going to read the language. Use of funds,
Yes.
right? And the language literally says, this is for the prior adaptations, right? Must provide documentation that the rebated taxes will be used to support debt payments for the renovations, to make additional improvement to the properties, or for another purpose listed in the development program. Except for the debt payments, everything else is additional investment in the community. So,
Yes.
I'm not looking to penalize.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
I
we
don't-
intentionally derived a policy here.
Yes,
And that policy then says, we'll give you that money back, and you either pay off your debt or you reinvest it.
They financed those improvements in one way or another, internally, with a bank, however they did it, we don't know, and we actually don't care, I don't think, how they financed it. These dollars will, whether indirectly or directly, go back to help offset the costs that they incurred in the development of that. And the proof in the pudding is that the improvements are physically visible, and the assessment went up as a result of those improvements. That is the test. And whether they now use those dollars retroactively to reimburse themselves, through some sort of accounting or on something else, probably amounts to the same thing. This is helping them relieve a burden that they had that comes in part from as a result of improving those properties. So the idea, this broad statement to support debt payments, is intended to be exactly this, and I suspect that's exactly what is happening. But we're not going to have an audit trail to that effect.
Well, then why
it's
would
just
we have said
self-evident.
to provide documentation that? 'Cause, I'm just looking at the language we used, and so I can say
It could be as
that
simple
the
as a letter.
language is wrong, and that council needs to change its policy, because this is not what we want,
It could be simple.
but it is the policy.
It could be a simple notarized statement that these funds are assisting in the.
And there's nothing in the TIF agreement that asks them to do this. There's nothing in the TIF
I think in
agreement.
the application, though, it asks for the amount of debt that they have incurred, what they've spent on the improvements. And so I think the application asks for all those things. They have to sign, they have to certify that.
Staff disagrees with me. I'm gonna say there's a difference between an incentive to reinvest and just giving you back your money to do whatever you want it to do. And this is an incentive program.
But
When we put the application together, we put it together with information that would help demonstrate that they actually did things that led to this very increase in assessed value upon which new taxes are being. And for the record, they invested $750,000 in those improvements. So, and that's that was always our understanding. We did not think we were moving at all beyond what the council had discussed and ultimately approved. So,
I remember the discussion, and I think what I remember kind of goes along with where Mark's headed with this. But I thought that that this application was an exception, that the policy was written to go forward with. We're actually going backwards with this application.
yeah, no dollars are going to reach back. The dollars are coming out of future revenues.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a reach back to say, oh, you're going to be reimbursed for the last 4 years. It will now go 10 years from the date of approval forward.
But we're reaching back in terms of the improvements that were done.
Yes, we're recognizing those improvements, that increment in value that was achieved by improvements made after the district was established, but before we got around to establishing this credit enhancement agreement tool.
So, Mark, do I understand you that what you're saying is that in our policy that any applicant would be looking at and having to fulfill, we talk about use of funds. What you're saying is in the actual agreement that we've established with Star Associates, there is nothing that requires that reporting back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you would like to see something in there?
My understanding, and as an economist, it all comes down to incentives and past stuff, because I've always was hesitant about this policy. So I distinctly remember just doing general tax redistribution, not incentive. It's different to me. And that's why it stuck in my mind and why I pushed for wording that talked about the use of that funds in more of a specific fashion. And so I was looking at it as an incentive, which is what the tax increment finance. Now, I'm going to say again, council could think it's totally different, and that's okay. I'm reading the words. We had this discussion at workshop. There was no change in the policy, because an easy change in the policy would just have been said, council disagrees with this paragraph, let's get rid of the use of funds, and we're not restricting the use of funds. But this is a restriction on the use of funds. But in reality, we're not. So I'm confused.
Well, to me, I think it's two different things. I think we are restricting the use of funds forward. If somebody came to us with a new project, with this increment, the way I understand it is, they would get repaid a certain portion of their debt, or they would use the funds to go into the investment. The thing is that with this particular one, they've already made the investment. So if they're just asking for the reimbursement that they would have gotten had the credit enhancement agreement been in place at the time they did the improvement.
But it's an incentive program, and they didn't need the incentive. And I really appreciate how generous they've been and how profitable their properties are. And I'm not arguing that we shouldn't give them money. But an incentive says, here's the $65,000, and we'd like to make sure you spend it in the community.
Well, it's
and on your property.
$6,200, not $65,000.
Well, over the 10-year period, it's 65.
Okay. But I just want to go back to the fact that there was this retroactive recognition that I think it was 4 properties had taken the initiative, were really pioneers in doing some of the work within the district before we got this tool done. Had they decided to wait, we as a town would have been worse off, but we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's better that they went ahead anyways, but they always knew the district was there. They didn't know that we would have this tool, but there's kind of this fairness thing, and we had that discussion at some length, that do we penalize the people who went ahead on their own? Or do we go back and say, we will treat you like we will treat everybody else who applies, as long as they meet their criteria, as long as they indicate what they invested as long as those physical improvements have been completed, and as long as the tax assessor looks at it and says, this building, this property has now increased in value by more than $7,500. If you meet those tests, then it is self-evident that they have met the qualifications. Now, we don't need an audit trail for that. I mean, I suppose you could ask for a notarized letter saying, yes, these dollars will go to repay the investment that we have made. That's an accounting action, because directly or indirectly, we know it must. That's what it will do.
What Mark is asking, if we're treating this application just like we would any future application, are we going to have that requirement in our future applications that they must document the use of the funds that they receive back? And if we're doing that, then I think we should do it with this, even though it's retroactive, we should be able to have some wording in this particular agreement that acknowledges that.
Well, what you're asking then is for an audit trail. The fact is, there are certain things that are self-evident and that streamline this. One is, did they apply for a building permit? Two is, when they applied for that building permit, did they indicate interest in this? Now, this had to come retroactively, this one. Did they indicate what they were investing? Did the result of that investment end up with a physical improvement that then increased the value of the property? If all those things are there, what additional auditing trail would cause you to say yes or no to the fact that they would qualify for credit enhancement agreement? That is an accounting action that I guess you could ask for, but is probably unnecessary because the evidence is there and the tax assessor has essentially accounted for the increase in value that resulted from these actions that we were seeking.
I do not doubt that they spent all the money that they did.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my point is whether it's a redistribution or whether it's an incentive for future.
Yes, and
that's the argument.
and I'll just repeat, but you know, it's
That's where you
I'll
and
just-
I think, fundamentally disagree. You wrote it, I voted on it, and we have two different understandings of what the policy means.
We always had this understanding that would be a retroactive provision for a few properties. Always.
But was the
Always.
use of the funds, we are disagreeing on, Evan.
I guess we're disagreeing.
are.
If you're saying that in order for them to qualify this, they now need to go into greater debt, then yes, I am disagreeing. That was not the intention.
I'm saying that they're either paying off their debt with it, which is what it says, or that they make additional renovations. And so now they've got $6,200 a year that the taxpayers are giving them, and they can use that to do whatever they want on the property.
Would a
That's what I'm saying.
letter,
That's
would
not
a letter
additional
indicating
debt.
that the money is
That's
being
not
used?
additional debt.
Would the letter indicating that they are paying off the financing of this?
I think
That's all you're looking for?
definitely what our policy says.
And that's all you're looking for?
A policy that just says, that's what it says.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
All right, so I understand Mark's position. Does the council have any other comments? If not, we'll take a vote on Order 15184. Go ahead.
I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion.
All right.
That this approval of this is conditioned upon a letter from the applicant indicating that the funds received will be used to pay off debt incurred in the property renovation or future improvements in the property.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Can I just ask for clarification? Internal debt, just debt, period? Okay.
Nancy, take a vote on the amendment? Okay. All right, so I'm going to take a vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? Passes unanimously. Now do we take a vote on the order?
Was there a second on that?
Yes, it was down here. Now I'm going to take a vote on Order 15-184 as amended. All those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, folks.
Sorry. He made the amendment. So Judy made the second. Okay. All right. Moving on to public hearing K, to consider the adoption of the Town of Orono Comprehensive Plan for 2014. Thank you all for coming. We are going to have a brief presentation by the chair of the Comp Plan Committee, Phil Ruck, with help from Evan. After the presentation, we will take public comment. When we take public comment, I would ask that you come to the podium and state your name and your address. I ask that you keep your comments to the comprehensive plan. I know that there's a lot in the comprehensive plan. And please be respectful of that. There have been people that have been working on this for over 3 years and grappling with these issues, so please be respectful with your comments. And to enable everyone to have something to be able to speak, I may at some point interrupt you if we've heard that comment before. And understand that council will not take any action this evening. We are just listening to your public input, and we will have a chance to discuss this at a later meeting. With that being said, Phil.
Thank you, members of the council. Again, my name is Phil Ruck. I'm the chairman of the Town Planning Board and also have served as the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I'm going to take a couple steps back just to reiterate for the audience, again, what our task was. We're focusing here on the comprehensive plan update. Evan usually does the intro, but I've learned a lot from him over the past 3 years. And my understanding is that every 10 years by state statute, the towns have to revise their comprehensive plan, make sure that it matches up with local ordinances and such. And the last comprehensive plan update was completed in 1999. And the council tasked a committee, a comprehensive plan committee, over 3 years ago to make the current revision of our plan. That committee was composed of, or comprised of, the planning board, 7 members of the planning board, as well as 7 members of the Orono public that were appointed by council members. And we proceeded to meet over 2 years, from May of 2012 through June of 2014. We met monthly. We tackled 3 main topics. We looked at inventory and analysis. We looked at, we took stock of, all things Orono. I learned more in that period than I have in the almost 30 years that I've lived in Orono. But we really studied what the current situation was in the town. We invited experts, local experts, for each of the topics. Evan and I will provide summaries in a minute, just again to hit the highlights of the plan. But we listened to a lot of really educated people with regard to transportation, with natural resources, with economy, and we gathered all that in. And then we then focused on issues and opportunities, and then we developed our plan, which we ultimately voted on. We went to public hearing, and we voted to pass that on to council. I do want to focus that the comprehensive plan that we took up, that we were asked to revise by council, was focused on everything but the F&A and LDR zone that was updated several years ago by another committee. So we were tasked with updating everything else in the comp plan but those particular sections of the town. And that's what we did. We took great pains in involving the public. I actually recognize several of the members in this audience that participated. We had 5 public forums. We advertised those as best we could with our town resources, including postcards, the Penobscot Times, the town website, you name it. We tried to get people there, and it was quite successful. We had crowds similar to those in attendance this evening, and that made a big difference in our process. We encouraged participation, and we received quite a bit of input. We had online surveys. We collected information that way. And overall, we received very positive comments. I'm biased being on the chair of that committee, but it was a good process, and people were engaged in this town, and it was very encouraging. We passed that on to council, and we finished our work in June, and council really took that up in September of 2014, and for the past year, they've been discussing all of the items that we had in our plan. They reviewed it very carefully. I participated in the council review committee sessions with Evan Rickert. He and I tried to convey what our committee discussed and what we intended with our revised plan, the draft that we provided to council, and that's what we're discussing here tonight in public hearing. So in a big nutshell, that's what we've been doing. So Evan and I will present to you now. We'll go through really through the highlights. The plan is very detailed. There are copies available, and we've tried to make these available on the website. You can come to the town office and get them, but we're going to cover the main points.
Good evening, Evan Rickert, Town Planner. It was a pleasure, by the way, working with the committee. Several members of the committee are in attendance here tonight. Also, say we reached out to the university and the students in several ways, including we had a class do some terrific work here, and at least one person here, Trey, is from that class. Did some work that actually influenced the final recommendations on some matters relating to our student population. Okay, Phil and I will share the presentation of these highlights. These are the highlights of the so-called policies and actions, which are one of the required elements of the comprehensive plan. It's where the beef is, I guess, in the plan. And what we're going to do is identify 6 or 8 main topics. The plan is more detailed than this, but this captures a lot of it. Just identify what one of the 2 of the key issues in that topic area are, and what several of the recommended actions are, and hopefully hitting the high points, but it's certainly not hitting everything. One of the biggest issues that we identified out of the gate was the steep decline in family-aged households and school-aged children in Orono. That's partly regional and statewide trend, but Orono was out of proportion to the state, to the county, and to our surrounding communities in the precipitous decline of family-aged households, and particularly families with children. In just 10 years, a 17% loss, decline with impacts on our schools, on our downtown, on our civic life, and other things. So that became one of the defining themes of the plan. Some of the key actions, which we'll go into more detail later under other sections, but as a teaser, revise the zoning within our village area to give greater opportunity for home ownership that's affordable to the average assistant professor at the university, or the teacher in our school system, or others who work here, and how can you match up housing opportunity for ownership opportunities with what their earnings are. And that might also include financial assistance for subdivisions that offer some home ownership opportunities at affordable prices. A central issue that we heard a lot about in the forums, that the council discussed in great depth with a lot of insight, and that we heard from the one of the student class that Trey was part of, looking into how you integrate off-campus student housing into the town while maintaining existing single-family neighborhoods as places where people do want to come and buy and have families. There has been sort of a slow, chronic replacement of owner-occupied single-family homes within the built-up part of town with student rentals. Some of them, they still remain single-family homes, but they're now just being rented. Sometimes they're 2- and 3-family homes. But there is some replacement that is happening out in the marketplace. And so it's an issue. It raises other issues that members of the public and the students discussed with us. So key actions. And this is probably some of the more complex aspects of the plan, but and the one that the council discussed a lot, is to draft an ordinance for council consideration defining and potentially regulating a land use called student homes in certain residential zoning districts. There was a lot to this. There was a lot of research that the committee did. The comprehensive plan committee really pushed to find tools that were used elsewhere in other college communities. And we found a number, did some detailed research, legal and other research with our own student interns, and learned a lot. And so this is really a matter for consideration. It's not a given that there will be something, but this is something that the council wanted to receive the details of during the implementation phase of the plan so that they can debate, consider what might be appropriate. There was a lot of, what we heard a lot of at the forums was that not every rental situation is the same. There rarely are situations, student rental situations, where the owner is in the property, where there are issues. There just aren't. And so, but our present regulatory structure treats everything the same. So there would be some distinguishing between the low impact rental units in owner occupied buildings and some others. Another key element, we don't know what the demand for large student apartment complexes will be in the future, given the supply that's coming online. It has come online the last couple of years and is continued to come online. But the plan recommends changes to the ordinances that would limit the largest projects off campus to encourage those to be on campus. Could be private construction, but on university land, on the campus, to help alleviate transportation and other issues. But at the same time, recognizing that the seed stock for a lot of the growth of the town may lie with graduate students who are, coming into their household formation years or are in their household formation years, and if they have work here and like this area, some may choose to stay. So encouraging graduate student family housing in town, and there are some tools suggested. Additional actions in this issue area have to do with requiring local qualified property managers. So if there are absentee property owners who live outside of the immediate area and have no way to respond quickly to complaints, those folks would now be required to have a local qualified property manager with contact information on file here with the town. A lot of discussion, both in the committee and at the public forums, and then in our survey, and ultimately by the council, about property maintenance requirements, particularly for rental properties that are not occupied don't have an owner occupancy element to them. There was broad agreement that we should strengthen health and safety related standards for such properties. Less agreement, but some discussion of wanting to see what it might look like to go beyond just absolute health and safety things to things that nevertheless affect the well-being of a street or neighborhood, property values, and so forth. It recommends a landlord-town advisory committee to provide a policy input, and to consider a loan fund, establishing a loan fund to assist in the reconversion of former single-family homes back to owner-occupied. All these things are related to figuring out how to find the right balance between two essential groups of population. One essential population is the student population, which is part of the lifeblood of this community, and the other is families who work here, who have a stake in the community, who are committed civically and to the schools and so forth. How do we make sure that the opportunities are there for them to choose Orono in a way that they can afford? Second big issue area, the economy. One of the issues, really an opportunity, is the university's commercialization of innovative products and services coming out of the University of Maine. And some of the key actions, and this kind of skims the surface in a lot of ways of a very interesting set of opportunities that are before us. But one is to implement a network of high-speed fiber optics by 2018. Some of the machinery to do that is now already being put into place with the Orono Old Town Fiber Corporation. To streamline home occupation regulations so that it becomes easier for office-based types of home occupations that don't have a lot of traffic to and from, whether it's a software engineer or a writer or a civil engineer or all web-based designer, people who want to do things in their home because that's an affordable, comfortable way for them to work in Orono. The committee was very strong in saying that it wanted to streamline our current regulations, which again treat all home occupations alike. Facilitate some startup space and shared maker space, that is artisan scale, light manufacturing space. We need that space. We often get inquiries now, and we can't accommodate those inquiries very easily. So there are some actions aimed at facilitating that kind of startup and shared space, and considering a business development fund for micro startups. I guess one of the fundamental conclusions of the committee was that our economic future rests as much with startups, those small and artisan scale endeavors, startups of all kinds, from biotechnology to information technology, more than with the large industrial parks or the large distribution facility or the large manufacturer, which have other options in this region, probably more attractive from a transportation point of view and other competitive advantages than Orono. But what we have is the university, we have entrepreneurs, we have innovation, we have the Target Technology Center, so that we want to build on that. Downtown, during the course of this comprehensive plan, Parks Hardware closed, and that was just another sign of a long, what really is, from the inventory analysis, a very long-term, slow conversion of downtown from a neighborhood commercial district with grocery store and hardware store and drugstore and maybe small clothing store to a specialty district, which restaurants and boutique shops and financial institutions. Every downtown, most every downtown, most traditional downtowns in Maine have been going through this transition. Orono has held down to some of its elements longer than others, and still does. But that transition is there. So how you work with it? One thing that the committee concluded was that retail doesn't beget retail as much as housing and people right there as part of the captured market begets that kind of economic activity. So increasing housing opportunities near downtown becomes a constant theme through a number of these issue areas. Carry on and continue with a 5-year facade improvement program that was actually started with the council and Sophie and Bell Ryder taking initiative on those things last year. Provide incentives to upgrade commercial buildings. We had that discussion just about 15 minutes ago. That's the start of it. So we begin already implement some of that with the credit enhancement agreement idea. We were strongly encouraged at one of the forums where we focused on downtown to think boldly and to think about not just what's there, but what could be there in the future. And there was some focus on a few corridors, mini corridors where there may be opportunities or where property owners may want to think about opportunities. So there would be these mini master plans, mini planning activities in the Pine Street corridor between Main Street and the library, for example, or along Oak Street, or things that had to do with the Stillwater River corridor to try to tie downtown and the river more closely together. Another action is to upgrade the Pine Street parking lot, and that is already in the planning stages. So again, 3 years, things move on. They don't all wait for a plan to be adopted. Finally, a big opportunity that the committee saw was expanding our resource-based economic sectors, including agriculture, forestry, outdoor recreation. And here there were several energetic ideas that came out and that were discussed at the forums. And the committee spent a lot of time, including bringing in experts, Maine Farmland Trust, Cooperative Extension, and others. But one thing is to recognize our river system, recognize the fact that we have an extensive local trail system. How can you turn those give them another dimension to become destinations? And how can you connect those things or make better use of them as part of a regional system that is recognized and is part of the brand of the region and this town? Explore space for a roofed farmers market, especially in and around somewhere in the village area. Don't know if that's possible, but we think that there could be enough interest. The committee wanted to go. The committee heard testimony on that and wanted to go in that direction. Might even be a multi-use space someplace. And then work toward a regional food hub. This was an idea that a food hub is a facility that aggregates produce from small area farmers in order to get that produce in the markets that are otherwise unavailable to those small producers. Small producers being both farmers and value-added producers who are processing some of that food into their own products. And a feasibility study based on this draft, the town council and authorized us to work with other communities in the region and the Regional Chamber of Commerce and Good Shepherd Food Bank and the University of Maine to do some feasibility work to establish the feasibility of a regional food hub to penetrate the institutional markets, the food service markets of this region within a 50-mile radius. So that some of this is already underway, but and the Orono Economic Development Corporation is actually managing that project. So it is a key player in what is a very important regional idea.
Tag team here. Again, we focus quite a bit of effort on natural resources here in Orono, both and historic resources as well. One of these we identified is Johnny Mac Brook. It's a unique water body in our town, and we recognize the importance of that. One thing we see in nearby communities, specifically Bangor, is due to the development and the urbanized area in the Bangor vicinity, some of our local water bodies are having some water quality issues. And the city of Bangor, most of you know the Penjajawak stream drains through the middle of the mall. And the city is towns having to spend millions and millions of dollars dealing with impairments due to urbanized area. And the message from that, or lessons learned, is that we don't want that here in our town. We have a very nice brook, Johnny Mac Brook, and we recognize that. And there's what we talked about is ways to protect that, given town standards and our zoning and such. One of the ways that we looked at, as far as key actions and protecting that particular area is maintaining the resource protection zones, the buffer areas around that stream, looking at development standards within that particular area, and what you can use. There's some tools that you can use with our development standards by looking at clustering. We already have clustering provisions, but that allows you to really focus some of the developed area away from resource and then preserve open space so that you have sufficient buffers to maintain the water quality that's necessary to avoid impairments in the future. Other things, a lot of communities around the state in urbanized areas are starting to look at low impact development. So within a lot of the engineering plans that we see even coming before the planning board now, we see a lot more of these elements included in the plans. Newer ways to, reduce the impacts on stormwater runoff. And as a town and as a committee, we talked about ways that we could promote these for future development activities, specifically in the Johnny Mac area and other areas of town. We also looked, we had experts in from the Pushaw Lake Association to talk to us about water quality. We're one of several towns that border Pushaw Lake, and we looked at this as a chart of phosphorus water quality. This is phosphorus over time. Pushaw has several, it's a shallow lake, and we learned all about that. But one thing we got out of our discussion with the Lake Association and local biologists or experts that in the water quality of that particular body of water, we looked at, the town needs to be an active member in that Lake Association. So we're going to continue to participate in that, or we advocated to continue membership in that Lake Association. Also taking a look at septic tank inspections prior to sale of properties within 250 feet of the lake. The reasoning behind that is failing septic systems or can be a significant cause of nutrient loading to water bodies. And that's the rural part of town. Everybody's on septic in that particular area. And if we keep better track of septic systems and maintain them, then we'd be less apt to discharge excess nutrients toward Pushaw. In addition, maintaining stormwater management and erosion controls, the shoreland zoning aspect. We have a lot of items in our ordinances now, but to emphasize that and again, reduce the impacts to our local water bodies. So as far as historic resources, we looked at try to really isolate and identify some of the key vistas, the historic areas in town. Evan gave a fantastic presentation on historical structures in our town and learned an awful lot about that. But we're looking at the scenic and historic access, using those as assets to draw people to our town and as a tool for economic development. Key actions. Evan had just mentioned to me, and what we talked about is some virtual tours and self-guided physical tours. We just going up and down Main Street, we have a lot of identified properties on the historic register, the National Historic Register. A lot of very unique architecture here in our town. So virtual and again guided tours of those types of historic structures. And then again, he mentioned it before in the economic development, but it came up in several places, strengthening our image as a scenic river town. We felt that we don't do a great job in utilizing the Stillwater River. It bisects our town, it's a key asset, it's a unique feature, and we, again, it came up in economic development, it came up in natural resources, it came up several areas throughout our discussions, and we want to enhance that. So we're also looking at the built environment with selective landscaping, with beautification committee. When we undertake municipal projects, we want to try to do the best job we can. And again, maintaining our maintaining our alignment with our historic preservation efforts as well, but to coordinate with town departments to make sure that we maintain those elements moving forward.
Land use and zoning is one of the primary purposes of the comprehensive plan is to really tackle the land use, future land use and growth of the town and the related regulatory structure, mostly zoning. And so I'm going to go, this will get in a little more detail from one of the earlier threads of thought in some of the earlier issues. But this idea of assuring opportunity for affordable home ownership through some zoning tools. One action would be to create a village residential overlay district. Some of these are technical terms, and be glad to explain them if need be. Thanks. Be glad to explain them. But an overlay district, this would be an incentive-based optional district that would enable property owners within roughly a third of a mile. That's a vague line that needs to be, through implementation, needs to be nailed down, but roughly easy walking distance, about a third of a mile of downtown and schools. An incentive-based district that would allow more housing opportunities to be developed as long as certain other standards are met, including a traditional neighborhood design standard. We had a number of presentations on what the elements of traditional neighborhood design, but very compatible with the village. The medium density residential district is the core of our single family residential area of Orono. Right now, the committee recommended modest reduction in minimum lot size and modest reduction in minimum frontage based on what we found to be the actual median size of all such single-family built lots in our medium density residential district is roughly 15,000 square feet with about 80 feet of frontage, so we would go to that median. Part of the historic district, the Main Street Historic District, that runs from around Mainwood down to Pine, is the presence of these magnificent homes that were the reason for the register. But we can see from for sale signs and from conversions and from people coming in to talk to us that the economic viability of those structures as single-family homes is diminishing over time. And so what can be done to make sure that the integrity of those buildings remains intact and have them economically viable? Along a Route 2 that's got 15 or 20,000 cars a day on it and so forth. And so that's the issue. And the proposed solution that the committee recommended to council and the council has discussed is to create, again, an optional overlay district there. An overlay district is a special set of opportunities, of options that overlay the existing zoning district, which is the primary governing tool. This will go from about Harrison to Kelly Road in the MDR, medium density residential district. Again, be optional. The idea is to come up with a definition of low impact non-residential uses that could go there as a matter of right for in those homes, in those buildings, as long as the historic architecture is retained. We can discuss that more if you want, but that's an important item that's in this plan. Also, there are some larger structures on College Ave that came to our attention over the course of the council's review, actually, and debate over what's the best reuse of those structures. And one way to resolve that question and give good direction is to create what's known as a town-initiated conditional zone, which is be a customized set of zoning regulations for that area that would allow some flexibility, but based on performance standards and planning board review. commercial, we have a district called Commercial 2, C2. It's designed as a mixed-use district. If you think of Park Street, where all the apartment developments are going, that's the C2 district. We have a few smaller C2 districts around town. It's a mixture of commerce and apartments and single-family homes. Given the flurry of apartment developments that have occurred in the last few years, the recommendation is to adjust the dimensional standards to promote neighborhood scale growth rather than some of the growth that has occurred, which would, as we mentioned before, limit the scale of off-campus student apartment developments. Instead of 16 dwelling units per acre, each of which might have 4 bedrooms each, it would be 16 bedrooms per acre instead of actually 8 dwelling units per acre with 4 bedrooms. So this would reduce the intensity of the use of some of the remaining lands that are now or could be in the future in the Commercial 2 district. And that's of course paired with the recommendation that large projects take a hard look and that we work with the university to locate them on the campus side of Park and College.
And on transportation and utilities, one of the interesting facts that came out of our discussions, inventory and analysis, that it turns out that Orono is probably the second highest in the state of relying on our residents and people that work here, of relying on alternative forms of transportation. We have a lot of bikers, and we have a lot of people walking to work, and we value that. So one of our key focal points in our discussions revolved around maintaining a transportation system that works for everybody. Okay, we looked at a street network, and I'll talk about the specifics, but it needs to be equally accessible, safe, and efficient for all modes of travel and all types of people. So in order to do that, we talked about adopting a complete streets policy. You've seen evidence of this with all the work that went on this summer. If you take a look going across the bridge, my kids have ridden that bridge to schools for years and years. You look at the width of the bike lanes. If you notice, the bike lanes on the bridge and going up the hill, almost everywhere with the new pavement that we have in town, except for one small section from Pine Street to Mill Street, where we just didn't have the width. But if you look everywhere else, we have bigger bike lanes. So that's, again, our Public Works Director. He participated in these discussions. He's aware of the focus on that. And as part of the improvements, the pavement, that was a significant improvement in my mind as well. But that's the work in action. Again, adopting an official map to guide future interconnected routes of pedestrians, bicycle, local streets, and walkways. I'll talk a little bit more about the official map, but again, that's just guidance. So if we look at future streets, we can plan those out. It's not to locate exactly where they will be, but to consider, again, where those connections could be and how do we facilitate better transportation with all the different modes that we talked about. Again, budgeting for high priority road improvements, pavement preservation, and sidewalk improvements. We heard that in our public forums that people want to be able to access our sidewalks all times of the year. It can be a little challenge in the winter, but we have a lot of people that walk. And again, one of our success stories, this is ongoing, is the shuttle service. We heard statistics about the BAT buses, or the Orono, Black Bear Express, the campus connection, connector, all those things, really good success stories here in this town. And we talked about, okay, those are great, perhaps we can expand those. So again, continue some of the positive improvements that we've seen for several years. Another issue is talking about public sewer and upgrading and extending public sewer collection system. And that includes eliminating combined sewer overflows. Our wastewater treatment plant already has a master plan. These are, combined sewer in a nutshell is where, you have some storm sewer and some sanitary sewer combined. So if you get a big rainstorm, there are outlet points, the overflows, so that you can have, fairly heavy loads of wastewater leaving the sewer system. The town has a plan to remove those. That's a very key priority for both the wastewater treatment folks as well as the town is a regulated stormwater community that we have to deal with DEP. That's also a big focal point there. So getting rid of those CSOs and again establishing a time frame. And again, looking where we would extend utilities, and the areas we looked at were the commercial zone on Stillwater Ave, west of exit 193, is really the area we looked at. And then at public water, been a lot of focus on public water over the past year and a half. It continues, but we looked at, again, our discussions were really supporting continuing efforts. We were not setting policy, but that map right there, what that really shows, in addition to all the dead-end streets for transportation issues, that also creates issues for water quality. When you have dead-end water spurs, it doesn't allow for, improved flushing that you might have in a loop system. So our actions in order to protect our public water supply is to assist Orono VZ Water District in locating an additional well separate from the existing well field. We also talked about, maintaining and retaining that aquifer protection overlay district that's already on the town books, and then cooperating with Orono VZ Water District in strategies to maintain and improve water quality, including the looping of lines, which I just mentioned. So again, with the water quality issues, we also talked about extending the water main west of exit 193 and eliminating dead ends on Forest Ave and Kelly Road. Parks and rec facilities. When we looked at this, we're talking about, how do we provide recreational opportunities to all our residents? We're not talking about, just kids or, college students. We looked at everybody. We heard a lot of public input. The issues, what we talked about is parks and playgrounds to attract families, provide multi-general recreation opportunities. Actions in order to make this happen, incorporate locations for 2 or more new playgrounds within a quarter mile of established neighborhoods. The key with a lot of our discussion is the walkability aspect. Evan mentioned that before in the downtown overlay district, those kinds of things. With parks, we looked at how far people would want to walk, to find these recreational amenities, and we talked about, it would be an improvement to add certain playgrounds for all ages in certain areas that are close to neighborhoods within a walkable range. Again, we also want to talk about, he mentioned it before, but we heard a lot of comments on this, to use the town and regions, our recreational assets as a draw. People come to Orono to hike our trails, to bike our trails, and to cross-country ski our trails, and they also get on the river. How do we do a better job in utilizing those resources and getting people to town to take better advantage of that? We already have a lot of really active folks. The Orono Land Trust already is very engaged in maintaining a lot of these trails, but how do we do a better job of letting people know all the really cool stuff we have in town? Part of this is talking about connecting trail network to create long distance trail system. We looked at maps that show efforts in Bangor, efforts in Orono, efforts north of here, and actually how do we bridge the gap? There's some voids in those trail connections. How do we make a really nice long distance effort so people could go south of Bangor and end up, well north of Orono? It's coming closer, but we talked about how do we participate in maintain our engagement in those activities, including the Bangor to Orono Wildlife Refuge. There's a trail system planned to connect that whole corridor, and also along the Penobscot River and Stillwater Branch. We want to engage civic groups to sponsor, events that are going to promote our trails and rivers. Other towns do this successfully. There's a lot of, successful models that we looked at and that we'd like to follow. And another key thing is we want to engage young folks in some of these committees. Some of the committees tend to be fairly heavily loaded on a certain age group, but we have university students. That was one of our key focal points throughout our process. How do we get the university students more involved? How do we get them involved in committees, those types of things, and even younger students as well. But it's important to have a wide range of people involved in promoting these activities.
Almost done. Financing, municipal finance, how do you finance the facilities needed to support growth or redevelopment, as we've been talking about? Comes down to capital improvements. Just a couple of quick things, because this is a much more complex topic that the council and Sophie deal with all the time. But looking just at street and sidewalks, we think $500,000 to $700,000 a year is a manageable objective. It won't get it all done, but the council believe that that's a manageable objective that should be incorporated into this plan. And there are priorities that Rob Yerkes at Public Works develops with the council, and program capital investment to extend the infrastructure that Phil has just talked about, plus fiber optics. But the benchmark is keep debt within 5% of our full assessable tax value. And finally, very briefly, because we've talked about these things in more detail, here's a map of the town. The state law directs municipalities in their comprehensive plan to designate areas where the community has decided it wants to grow and has the infrastructure and services to grow, and those parts of the community that are best left to rural land uses, from some housing to farms and forests to recreation, wildlife areas, water resources, and so forth. And everything that is our so-called forestry and agriculture district is that rural part, and that was established in 2009 as part of the 2009 discussions that Phil referred to earlier. This yellow area just west of Stillwater Avenue, just overlapping that red oval between Stillwater and Taylor Road, is the low-density residential district. That's a transitional area, in the words of the state statute on comprehensive planning. And the colorful purple and gold and blue and are the various growth districts, the higher density residential districts, the university, and the commercial districts. If you go to that growth area, designated growth area, there a lot stays the same, much more stays the same than changes, but there were a few suggestions in the plan recommendations. We've got an economic development zone out by Godfrey Drive and out near exit 191 on the Boy Scout property and just west. There may be a couple places that it would be useful to expand that district because of the logical road connections that are available. We talked about the incentive-based village residential overlay district, which is in that kind of that pink mottled color, labeled number 2, but that's a guideline, but it's roughly 1/3 mile from the school campus and from downtown. We talked about the Main Street overlay district along that corridor, that light-colored corridor along Main Street. There are a few older legacy uses like Shaw and Tenney or the former Lane Construction Sunrise plant and so forth that we don't know. Hopefully they'll continue as the active ones like Shaw and Tenney or Byers Manufacturing will continue as they are. But if they go away like Lane has gone away, what do you do? What do you do? You can't predict. I don't think anybody can predict what wants to be there. So there's a tool called contract zoning that gives the municipality, really in the hands of the town council, to the ability to customize that in response to a proposal. And it's called contract zoning. We would also add the Med Now building down there in front of Derigo Pines which has been now vacant for a few years. It's zoned for single-family residential, which obviously is not going to happen on that property. So we would add that to that category right for contract zoning. There are a couple of small extensions of the Forest and Agriculture District to land already in conservation, just a couple small lots. So that's it, and that's the end of the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. It was very helpful. All right. We will now take public comment. If you could come up to the podium and state your name and where you live. And Susan.
My name is Susan Whitmore. I was out on Park Street. One thing I noticed is detail is there's the population decline of 17% less families in Orono. I was just thinking perhaps it might be a little premature to start planning playgrounds when that's kind of when that population consideration is still kind of determinable, especially considering, thinking about it further, populations, scientifically populations don't really decline, they usually always incline. And as the population inclines, I imagine so would the student population. So that's a consideration. Is the university going to expand some within the next 20 years? And the other consideration is within those vicinities, there are also the various housing complexes that have been designed more so for younger populations than single-family homes. So I think those are a couple of things to consider before investing finances into playgrounds, especially when there are all the trails and the parks that already are existing.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments?
Hi, I'm Claudia Loud. I live at 42 Mill Street. One of the things I wanted to request is a really closer look about sidewalks in downtown. Where I live on I guess I would be on the north side on Mill Street, there is no sidewalk. And I've talked to Rob Zerka, and it was discussed that there was going to be a sidewalk there. And then when it actually I got a curb, but no sidewalk, it was that he said that there wasn't a lot of money. He was more concerned about maintaining the sidewalks he has. Good point, but this is our village district, downtown commercial district. And I work a lot with the old people that live across the street from me. It's actually dangerous. And people walk on the street all the time, Mill Street. And I really want to support a sidewalk on both sides. I think the village commercial district really deserves sidewalks. And I think we want to have more business and more people to walk. I'm a big promoter of the sidewalk. And I do think that I live also where the bus goes through, the little, the Black Bear bus. I think it's great. I think it could go more often. I think we could get even more people to come and use it. And I'd like to promote it to be a consideration of having it be a plug-in solar or something more innovative in the solar world. Right now it's diesel, and you certainly can hear the diesel, but I think that would be another way. Something innovative, especially with the concept of maybe, it's not in any of this, but the idea of plug-in vehicles or using our Pine Street parking lot to actually have it be a canopy of solar, something along those lines. So, and also to consider burying all the lines in downtown Orono. It stops, again, right in front of Parks Hardware, which is like right by my house. The lines come back up, and I think it really makes a much more beautiful downtown if the lines were even buried in all of Mill Street. I know there's expenses to that, but I think beauty makes a difference. I've said it before in public meetings. I think beauty is one of the cachets that Orono is a very beautiful town, and beauty is an economic development tool also. So I wanted to talk about that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm David Powers. I live in 17 Middle Street. I think they're doing a real good job, but the signs in Orono are terrible. There's autistic children, okay? Middle Street, if you measure it, is probably 14 feet wide. I got a 2013 GMC, and not two of them can meet. We have several little children, 2 1-year-olds, an 8-year-old, a couple 12-year-olds, okay? And the traffic is terrible. I mean terrible. Fast.
You said Middle Street?
Middle Street. The street's 14 feet wide. There's a nice sidewalk, there is. But you guys are trying to get people to move in, families to move in. I wouldn't bring my grandchildren to my house, I'm sorry. Because if you make a mistake and they go out in the street, it's terrible. There's no, there's a lot of childs with needs. There ought to be 4-way stop signs, I'm sorry, but if they got to stop to every street they come to, and that's all homes. And that's probably not bad. I just think that something needs to be done, because you as the town council, if a right-of-way is supposed to be so wide, and if you don't have it so wide, who's responsible? A girl already got killed in front of one of the houses. We don't need any more of this.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll
Thank
take
you.
that into consideration. Anyone else have any comments? No one?
A lot of information. I remembered another one. The permanent farmers market. I liked that in terms of having a more permanent structure to support the farmers market. That might bring more, perhaps more farmers market days could be available if there were a permanent structure, which would be nice, depending on the whether or not the farmers could use extra days. And I think they should be asked prior to making such a construction, in terms of if you're going to make such a construction, it should probably get used more than once a week. But if the farmers are capable of producing that much, I think that would be a nice addition.
Great, thank you.
Farmers markets are usually quite popular in cities and with tourists and such things. It's nice to have a local market and see what's available in the vicinity when traveling.
Great. Thank you.
My name is Steve Philbrick. I live at 10 Beach Street. Pardon my outfit, I was out running and I remembered the meeting. Just a comment, speeding and wrong way traffic on Mill Street. Mill Street, Mill Street, I live on Beach Street and I walk up and down that street frequently. And I don't think there's a day that goes by where someone doesn't go in the wrong direction on Mill Street. And if you sit in the Verve and you look out the window for any length of time, you'll see that there's a lot of speeding on Mill Street. I don't have a solution to remedy these things, but I just wanted to point out that they're a reality. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Well, council will take this up on November 2nd. And so if anyone has a comment that they forgot to make or they would like to make, you could email Sophie at sophiew@orono.org, and she will collect those. We would like the comments by next Thursday so that we can make sure that they're included in the discussion for November 2nd. So thank you all for participating. Okay. So I'm going to close public hearing K. I'm going to move to acknowledgements by council members. Start with Mark.
I'd actually really like to acknowledge the community members that participated in the comprehensive planning process. As it was noted, it's taken approximately 3 years. There was a lot of meetings. A lot of people came to those meetings, provided really invaluable input, and I really want to thank Phil Ruck, who helped lead us through that process, so thank you.
Sam?
I'd like to congratulate UMaine on a successful homecoming and sesquicentennial hoo-ha, or whatever Trey wants to call it. We had a great parade. Thank you. And sorry about the weather.
Tom?
I'd just like to acknowledge Maine Municipal Association, an organization which we belong to. They held an excellent conference 2 weeks ago, which I attended. Cindy attended as well. Cindy, our chair, serves on the executive committee of Maine Municipal, and we're fortunate to have that voice there. That's it.
Thank you. Judy?
No.
Jeff?
I just also want to echo Mark's appreciation of the people that worked on the comprehensive plan process, particularly Phil Ruck. I think Phil provided a lot of valuable leadership, and hope he continues to do so. We need you.
Tom?
Let's try it. That working now? Okay. I want to echo everybody else's thank you to all the people that were involved in the comprehensive plan and all the meetings. Like they said, we had 5 public hearings, and the turnout was wonderful. And everybody was willing to give their ideas, and I think we're going to end up with a very good plan. Also, thank you to all the people that volunteered their expertise to help us get through that.
Thanks, Tom. Move on to unfinished business. I don't think we have any. And with council's understanding, we would like to move Order 15197, order authorizing the town manager to place the Civil War monument at the Orono Public Library ahead of the consent agenda and the other matters. If no one has any objection, we will move on to that. So I will take a motion for Order 15197, order authorizing the town manager to place the Civil War monument at the Orono Public Library. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Are you doing a? Are you trying to do a presentation?
Trying to pull a picture up, but
That's got to be irrelevant.
Really?
It's just got to be irrelevant.
Well, as Sophie works with that, we will just talk about a little bit about the history of what's been going on with the monument. The Orono Historical Society has raised $25,000 to get the monument redone. I saw it the other day. It's beautiful. And they originally tried to get the monument placed in front of the U.S. Postal Service office. And after 2 years of working, at least 2 years of working with the federal government, that was an unsuccessful option. So it was brought to council, and staff and council have worked with town groups to identify several options for the placement of the monument. And in response to public comments at 8 meetings on this topic, council has identified several options for placement of the monument. What has been brought forward to council has been the option to place the monument in front of the library. And this is the motion. Sophie, do you want to describe a little bit about what we're looking at?
So this is the Orono Public Library on Pine Street, 39 Pine Street. You'll see Pine Street kind of at the top of the screen, the parking lot. The arrow head goes over the sidewalk that walks up from the parking lot. And the square represents where the approximate location of the monument would be. Right now there is an overgrown flower garden. This is essentially behind that. So it's about at least 8 feet off the path. and on fairly flat land. Is that helpful?
What I'd like to do is hear if council has any comments before I open it up to get public comment.
I have a question. Is it possible for that monument to move closer to the building?
It can move a little bit closer to the building. The library was designed to be expanded upon. When the village green came into play, which is at the back of the library, we would lose 2 of the potential pods for expansion. So we really want to keep the ability to expand out the front, which is about 25 feet, plus you'd need space for construction to happen at the front. It could probably come back a little bit more, but talking with Rob, if the council wants to leave open the ability to expand the library in the future without having to go through the process of digging up the monument and replacing it, which would be somewhat of a feat. I mean, you're talking about a 4-foot foundation.
The reason I asked is, and heaven forbid I'm going to say the dreaded word, there's a tree that's planted, it's a fir tree of some sort, conifer, that's planted back, that would be, to me, a better site. I worry about proximity to the roadway, and I know it's back a little bit, but it's still very obvious at the roadway, and I just wondered if you could maybe swap the tree and the statue. The tree, I think you can see it. It's closer to the building itself. It's actually, what I see I think you can see the tree I'm talking about, and it was.
Is that under the library word?
Yeah, maybe even further back than that a little bit. It's a young tree. I mean, it would be something that I think could be moved. It hasn't been there that long, and still relatively small, could be moved, and possibly get the statue back, far enough back that it would still be visible. As a matter of fact, could be actually more visible for people coming and going into the library. I don't know how the Historical Society feels about it, because that's the bottom line as far as I'm concerned, what they think. But when I looked at it, I just thought it was still a little too close for my comfort to the walkway. And I did get the impression that for the Historical Society, the safety of the statue is their prominent, most concern that they have is for safety and future, any risk of future vandalism. And I do see vandalism myself as something that occurs kind of spontaneously. It's not something that's planned. And we know the walkway is, certainly evening walkway for nighttime entertainment. And I just think it's a little vulnerable there. That would be my one concern.
So, if I may, I'm going to say what I think I've said at least 8 times since we've had 8 meetings. Council can put the monument wherever council wants to put the monument, as long as we either have permission to put it there or we own the property. Mm-hmm. Where you're talking about, which I think is like under the B in library.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe back a little bit further than that. Actually, but yeah.
I will just say you absolutely could put it there. You could probably dig up the tree. It may or may not survive. But if you put it there and decided you were going to expand in the future, that is about the limit of the actual expansion. So you wouldn't have space to construct around it, which is what we were trying to do to...
Well, can you come further this way then? Can you come even further towards the doorway to the entrance to the library?
Then you're going to be right in the future expansion.
Where are they going to expand? I thought we were going to expand.
So there are 2 pods that go on each of the sides. They go out to the front about 27 feet. And on this side, you just remember that where it's darker, that is a hill that has quite a slope. And the pod comes out a little bit on this back side. It comes out a little bit towards the roof line. So, I mean, you're right in there. But like I said, you can put the monument wherever you would like.
I think I would. That's my perspective, but I think that I would want to hear from the Historical Society what they think at this point myself, but,
One quick question.
Sure.
Which way is it facing? I missed that.
yeah, it's another issue. I mean, I would think if you're gonna have it close to the road, it's gonna face the road, but it's supposed to be facing south, supposedly, and I don't know how you can get it facing south on that property.
So I will just say that came up at the last committee meeting, the idea that if it's in the north, it has to face south, and if it's in the south, it has to face north. I actually had an industrious staff person who did some research with the organization that was actually named at the committee meeting. And what we learned was that in the South, there are very particular rules about how monuments are placed. And it has to do, I think, with the fact that they waited about 50 years before they started placing monuments, to the point of, we found lots of description about what it means when one hoof is up or two are up, and if it's a specific person or not. I mean, they very clear rules. But it also went on to say that in the north, there aren't clear rules, that communities face the statue in all different directions, and quite frankly, if it was placed out here, it would not be facing south either. So there are very, that's not something, even at the post office, the way that it was pictured to come out would not have been facing south. And I would assume council would not want people to drive up to the back of a monument.
Any other comments by councils members?
We've had a lot of discussion about this issue. We've received a fair amount of input. We had a petition in our material that had been signed by over 200 people, and I guess I'm anxious to hear what folks have to say who are here tonight.
Okay. Well, it looks like Marlene's in the in the front row there, so shall we start with you?
You don't have.
You all set? Yep.
Okay. This is gonna move on you if you push.
You're heading better. I've got a gentleman from the American Legion that has given us some suggestions and advice and stuff, and he called Cindy. Did you get the email from him?
Yes, I did. Yep,
Clark
and I
Thompson?
forwarded on. Yep.
Have you read it to the council, or?
I forwarded on first thing this morning. I don't know. Didn't see it. Okay. I believe it said that he was a veteran and that he strongly supported it in front of the town office. Is that correct?
He asked me to say he couldn't be here tonight. Anyway, you have no respect for Civil War soldiers because you're putting the statue on a side street away from the main highway, and public view is demeaning. 1/3 of our donations came from outside of Orono, and some even from outside of Maine. They have respect for our military men and women who kept us safe. Most of them know there is nothing in Orono that represents any branch of the military. It's like Orono doesn't care about the men and women who fought, and some lost their lives to keep us safe. A lot of towns have a plaque of some sort. Orono has nothing. The American Legion Hall on Park Street does have a list of the names of the gentlemen and women that served in the military. But the town of Orono has nothing, and it looks disgraceful. I'm president of the Historical Society.
Does anyone else have any comment?
Thank
you. I was simply wondering, is this going to be a temporary location, or is the monument going to return to Webster Park?
I don't believe Webster Park park is an option
Okay.
because of the Historical Society feels it's a security risk. for
Feels
the ci-
it's
it's not safe there from vandals, so that's why we're looking for another option.
Though that was its location, from my perspective, my immediate thought is that was its location for as long as I can remember. And the damage
Susan,
done to it.
It actually moved around a little bit before it got there.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, it was actually placed originally in what was called Monument Square, which is in front of where the University Credit Union is right
Mhm.
now. It was that was its original location. And it was sadly vandalized quite badly over at Webster Park.
Oh, was
Which
it?
is why the need for all the restoration took place. I mean, there may have
Oh,
been some other.
I thought the crevice in the forehead, I thought that was caused by weather damage. I thought that was, similar to.
The rifle, I think, was
Hmm?
damaged. The rifle that the gentleman was holding was damaged. And I think that's why there's such concern about it being in a more visible place and certainly a more secure place than that was. And hopefully, our goal is to find a home, a permanent home for this gentleman.
Right. So this one would be a temporary.
The library, no.
No, the library would be a permanent.
Oh, you're saying the library would be the permanent home. Okay. My other comment is pertaining to that it should be facing south. Though it would look quirky, I kind of like that. And it still acknowledges kind of the South itself. I mean, that would be kind of bizarre. It would be a story for the locals to tell to visitors.
Thank you, Susan.
I've already been here once, so I'm David again. The accessibility at the library is nowhere near what it is here. Can you tell me what the number of people is that go to the library versus the town hall or drives by the town hall versus drives by the library? My next issue is Pleasant Street bus stop is at the library, okay? And if any of you council members want to know what goes on down in the village, my front porch at 17 Middle Street is available any weekend, so you can listen to, I don't know if you want to call them the drunk and the bad, or the tire squealers, or the people hollering and throwing beer bottles at the neighborhood's houses. That's just a real bad idea, because I live there. I hear it. There's way too many college students roaming around. It's just a real, you need to think about it, because it's a real poor idea. And you got a $10 tree. It's a $10 tree. It takes 10-inch trees to make a cord of wood, and you got a $10 tree versus what? A $40,000 monument? It's just, it's a real bad idea. And I know you probably don't think so, but think about all the people that are.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
My name is June Coda Anderson, and I was born in Orono. I've been raised in Orono, educated in Orono, and I worked at the University of Maine, and I worked for the state of Maine in the fuel assistance program in Orono here until I went to Bangor. I was a member of the registration board with a number of years with Judy's mother serving with us. I've also at times been an election clerk for the local, state, and government. I would like to ask each member that voted yay for those voters to explain why that poor statue is being put where it is instead of that poor Christmas crooked tree and a Colorado pine, not even the state of Maine, which is our flag. It is our tree. Would it be a privilege to stand where that statue that statue is right now, to represent the boys, some of them only 15 years old, husbands, fathers, workers of the state of this town, all family members who gave their life to make this one country under God. I would like to know why you want to put that statue that has stood in the center of this town in various spots. I don't care if he was facing south, north, or where, but that statue has been in this town when my father and family all grew up here. And why is it not being privileged to stand in the center of town where it has always stood? Please tell me why. I know you all. There's only one person here that voted nay, and I worked on the board of registration with her mother, and she is a descendant of those family that fought in that war. The Reed name, Judy Sullivan Reed Sullivan. That is a descendant of one of the people who fought in that Revolutionary War. And she serves on the council. Please tell me why you want to take it away from that particular place.
We'll discuss it again as council, but we'll just hear a few more comments and then we'll.
Stuart Dexter, Fernwood Street. I thought I was going to come to a council meeting without saying anything, but someone on the council said they wanted to hear some of the people regarding the placement. I was very surprised to see that it was going to be down on Pine Street and near the library. It's like someone said, it's put on a side street. I probably should have been more involved in this. I've gone to a couple of meetings. I think probably one of the best places is in front of the, between the fire station and the council building. Somewhere on Main Street anywhere where it can be recognized. Two things went through my mind. Very few, I shouldn't say very few because I don't know, but there's a lot more people that travel Main Street than they do on Pine Street. The other thing that I thought of too, and I'm not sure if it might come up, would be vandalism. I don't think very many people that might be a vandal would do something in front of the fire station, police station, or city hall compared down to Pine Street. I have no facts on that, but something went through my mind. I think it's a poor location, and I do think that in front of the center of town here would be much better. My comment.
Thank you.
Diane Donovan, and I live in Longfellow Heights. I have picked up where the college students and some other, pardon me for being honest, drunks here in town have come through there throwing beer bottles and everything else the whole length of Birch Street and clear down into Longfellow. That is absolutely no place to be putting that monument knowing that this stuff goes on. I have contacted the police about things going on down in that neighborhood. No, I totally disagree, and I really believe that you should rethink your thoughts. You have a tree out here. Number one, you're so concerned about that tree that is blocking the United States flag. Come on. That flag should be visible as well as that monument. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Blees. I live on Grove Street. Been here for 56 years, and I'm on the tree board. In 2001, the spruce tree was dedicated as a town tree to help beautify our town and to be decorated with lights at holiday time, even though it hasn't been decorated in a number of years, it doesn't mean it's useless, as was mentioned by someone at one of our previous meetings. Environmentally, this healthy tree is invaluable to our community, to all of us. It reduces the carbon dioxide in the air and reduces stormwater runoff, saving us money as taxpayers. In particular, in the middle of town, where there's a lot of traffic, it helps to reduce pollutants. It also provides greenery in an area where there's lots of brick and macadam. The tree has been in that spot for 14 years, and for its size, it is irreplaceable. Most communities revere their street trees. We need to be proactive about keeping our healthy street trees and not remove them to make room for something else as important as that object might seem to be. Every year, we lose a certain number of trees in our town that reach their biological maturity and show evidence of disease. It's important to keep the healthy ones. To me, the answer is to keep a healthy tree that gives us so many benefits. I also value the statue. There was an option to have the statue on the sidewalk right here on Main Street and keep the tree, and I don't know what happened to that option. To me, that would be a wonderful idea, but it's either the tree or the statue, and I don't understand that. I thought it would be quite beautiful in the wintertime to still light that tree, start lighting it again. And if the statue was out in the front, and the flagpole can always be moved. You can't dig a tree up and then replant it. Not a tree that size. It wouldn't survive it. So that's my opinion about it. I just think that we should really consider keeping a healthy tree and also finding a very suitable place for the statue that's in the public view. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Go ahead.
You have permission to speak. I'm not a resident.
Yeah, you can come up to me.
My name is Eric Boothroyd from Dover Foxcroft. I'm sort of here as a stakeholders group interest. I'm a past department commander of the Department of Maine of the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War. I'm a member of the Daniel Chaplin Camp of Bangor, which has been in existence since 1883. Our organization is a national organization. We are the legal heirs to the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the largest Union veterans organization. I just want to be here to support the efforts of the Historical Society in making sure that the monument is in a place of prominence as it was originally placed by the veterans who placed it there. My concern also is for its safety and for the investment that everybody, including our organization, did in contributing to the renovation of that statue. We'd like to see it in a prominent position. We'd like to see it safe. I trust the recommendations of the Historical Society. And just a comment on facing directions, etc. Yes, equestrian statues have symbolism and stuff, but it's up here, it's not really that big a deal. There are 3 statues over my way, Dover Foxcroft, Dexter's, and Abbott's. They were all donated by the same person, and they each face in different directions. Dover Foxcroft goes north, Abbott goes west, and Dexter goes east. So that shouldn't be a big concern on placement, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comment? Come to.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Fellenser, and I live on College Avenue. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. We're here this evening to address 2 concerns. One, firstly, to recognize and thank those who donated the money. which supporting the request for the financial assistance for the restoration of the Civil War soldier. And secondly, to identify a safe and visible location, hopefully his final placement. He has experienced 5 locations since the 1890s, and as I guess Cindy indicated, the original placement was there at the junction of Forest Avenue, Bank Road, and Main Street. The last site being the Webster Park, where he was vandalized. His rifle was ripped away. It's my understanding that rifle replacement came to about $5,000, so it wasn't a cheap steal. Orono Historical Society members are most grateful to the contributors. Several citizens have sent money on multiple occasions, so they've been quite invested in seeing this restoration. And now the Civil War soldier has been made whole once again, thanks to the generosity of Orono citizens. We believe that this is an expression of gratitude, respect for, and in memory of the sacrifices made by the men who volunteered to fight and die for their country. The donors gave their money believing and trusting that the dollars would be put to good use, expecting that security and respect for a final permanent location would be considered, a location that provides a detriment to further damage and vandalism. This can best be demonstrated by the respect and care exercised in the selection of the appropriate site. Now, this search for this site has been long, delayed, and difficult. I'm sure that you are all well aware of that, and you're probably sick to death of hearing it. There are times, I'm sure, when there are Orono Historical Society members who are fed up. However, there are some who are going to hang in tough. We are not quitters. We don't have quitters on our chessboard. At the dedication ceremony in 1890, a letter from the governor at that time was read as follows. It's quite flowerful. The rendering of such posthumous honors ought not to be trusted to the accident of private generosity. It is a public debt and should be made a public duty to be executed at the public charge. I'm not sure that too many high school students would find that very easy to interpret, but I think we get it, don't we? So let us work together respectfully and in a conciliatory atmosphere, setting aside individual personal agendas, respectfully focusing on the ultimate good for the soldier. Now, considering our season, where some of us were colder than we wanted to be today, obviously placing this monument, this soldier, it's not seasonally correct time. So I propose that the decision for the location be delayed, thereby affording time for the interested parties to work collaboratively, identifying a safe visual site, a location in memory of our citizen soldiers who died for their country. With respect to the tree, this obviously has become a tree tree versus the soldier. Unfortunately, it is not a healthy tree. That has been verified by 3 different arborists. Borings have been taken. A letter was sent to the council. I know that you received it a month ago or longer. It is not healthy. It will take years for it to reach a point where you can say it's dead. I totally agree with Mrs. Blees that it's very appropriate to care for our trees. I couldn't agree more. And I'm sure that there are other members of the society who feel that way. However, there have been numerous offers of replacement by members not only of the society, but people in the community to donate a tree or trees. I mean, the more we talk about it, the higher the number go, to donate the trees and place them anywhere in accordance with the tree board's desire or plan, so that it's not like that's the only tree that, it's gone and there will never be another. I think you could probably garner 25 trees out of this, because so many people have said to me, Lord, I'll give you 10. How many more do you want? So let's let's accept this offer from these people, and work with them. Let's work through this. It's not respectful of all of us that this should go on and on and on. I can't quote an exact figure, but it was in excess of $25,000 to put this statue back together again. And it isn't really finished yet, because we have probably, $10,000 more to put the foundation in. So, let's get on with it, folks. And let's think about this in a rational, unemotional, let's take an intelligent adult approach to this and think it through. Take our time, take a deep breath, have another cup of tea, and get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take these last 2 people and then maybe we'll.
I'm Dave Lambert on Cromwell Drive, and I do the diagnosis for the state, plant disease diagnosis, and I've looked at the tree. The tree has a little rhizosphere that's very common with blue spruce. It's not a fatal disease. If someone's concerned about that, the tree can be treated very easily, so the health of the tree is not an issue. And I might also add, I've had 7 relatives that served in the Civil War. 2 of them came home injured. Both of them had enlisted well into their 40s. The other 5 did not make it home. I've looked at all of their monuments, and I can't see any reason why this site dishonors Civil War veterans.
Thank you.
My name is George Weatherby. I came to Orono in 1960. I bought 26 acres next to the Grove. Of course, what that means to me is my property isn't worth what it was in, but I've retained all that 26 acres. Pretty hard to go much further because I bought the whole thing. I wasn't going to say anything, but now I guess I should. I think, and I'm a veteran too. I'm not a veteran, but I spent quite a few years in the service. I think the statue should be in the front of the town, somewhere near, I don't know if you can put it, I haven't followed this too far at all. It looks to me that it should be somewhere around the City Hall, places I would expect to find a statue like that. Now you talk about preservation of land, of trees. I have pine trees up there, they're 150 years old. Some of them got much, maybe even 1,000 board feet in some of them. So I'm really a good environmentalist, if you want to say that. I've preserved half of that, and I've watched what's happened on Park Street, much to my dissatisfaction. But it's happened, so it's done. So anyway, I say that it should be on the front of the town, somewhere near the town hall, city hall, whatever, if it can be done. And the heck with the tree. Thank you.
Thank you. I think due to the hour, I think we have heard of a lot of discussion. I guess, council, I would ask, do you want to, oh,
Is he leaving?
sorry. Are you for comments or? Yes. Okay.
My name is Jack Blees. I live at 34 Grove Street in Orono. I've lived here for 56 years. I've worked for the university and continue to work for the university for 56 years. I'm a veteran of the Korean War. I respect monuments for Civil War soldiers and every other kind of soldier. I donated to that project. I'm a member of the Orono Tree Board and the Orono Trail Committee. I think I'd like to commend the men and women of the Orono Council. I think you're making a big mistake for trying to put that statue anywhere on Main Street. Cars go by at 25 and 30 miles an hour. What do you think they see of a statue going that fast? Down at the library, if the statue is put there, they also have classes for students and adults. And the statue being there, where it would be at the library, give people incentive to ask questions. Why is that statue here? Who does it represent? It represents the 39 military people that were killed in the Civil War. I think you're doing an excellent job in the time you've taken and the assessments you've made of where to put that statue. Thank you.
Okay, council, we have a motion and a second on this order. The question is whether you want to vote on this order, whether you want to amend this order, whether you want to table this order and look at other options. I guess I'm looking for comments and where people would like to go with this.
As I understand it, and I do appreciate the tree board's concern for trees on Main Street, and I do appreciate the fact we have an aging trees. We don't want to see another incident like we had with the tree that fell on the car that was driving by. What I don't understand is why the offer of replacing the tree isn't sufficient in terms of everything that's good about the tree being there. And I don't understand why that would allow for both parties to have what they want, another tree on Main Street that would be donated in replacement, or maybe more than one tree, as people have said, and yet put the statue in the safest place that it could possibly be in. And so I guess that's where I'm at with all of this. I would want to know why that doesn't sound like a reasonable solution.
Well, I mean, there is an option because we've got to look at the drainage system in front of the town office, that we can, delay this or make a decision to put it in front of the town office, but where exactly until the drainage is done, we can do that.
Has there been any input? Has Rob looked at it? Is that a feasible thing, or is that just another delay that we end up back at the table?
So we have looked at it, Judy. It can physically fit in that space between the, kind of where the sundial is. It needs to come back a little bit further than kind of where the sundial is. The issue that we're running into is not a delaying tactic. It's
I don't
that,
mean it as a tactic.
Yeah, no,
I'm not saying
it's that we have been taking in water in the basement of the town hall, and so one of the things that contractors or the engineer that we've been talking with is suggesting is we might need to dig out and do some work. And, you know, I think it's entirely possible that we can redesign. I think the design of trying to make the walkway go around on either side of it, I don't think there's enough space to comfortably do that there. And one of the things we had been really trying to work with is this effort to try to get it in as soon as we could. And if right now, we're trying to figure out whether or not we can deal with the drainage now, or we're going to have to live with it longer. So if it's a matter of putting it in the right space, and it's going to take, the other thing I heard loud and clear from counselors was we engaged somebody to help us figure out, you know, scale-wise, whether or not it would fit. I have no more money that I can give out of my budget for this without council approval. So it would be a matter of waiting to see what the drainage looks like when we're done, and being willing to wait to let that happen before it came back, before we tried to set it somewhere. It probably wouldn't look the way we had originally thought. It's probably going to have to slide over closer to the public safety building and move the walkway so it would come on this side of it, so that we maintain enough space.
Okay.
I guess I would say to the Historical Society, does that sound like an option? An acceptable option? What Sophie is saying, that there was a water infiltration problem here in front of the building, and that it needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later, one would assume. And in the process of doing that, it's possible or probable?
What? What's
possible? It's possible that we may be able to find a home.
I think it's probable.
Probable that in the process of fixing that filtration, water filtration problem, that you could end up with a spot for the statue in front of the municipal building. It would not, the tree in question would remain, and there would be a space closer to this side of the building. That, right? Closer.
No, it would go close. It would hug near the tree, but far enough away from the tree so that we wouldn't damage the roots. Mm-hmm. The new sidewalk, we'd have to rebuild the sidewalk and potentially tweak the stairs.
So it would be in front of the building? No.
Between.
Well, I mean, but
yeah.
On Main Street. It'd be on Main Street.
On Main Street.
On Main Street.
Not in front of the building.
But not in front of the building, but between the tree and the sidewalk.
Judy, at this point, I think I'd like to hear from council.
Well, I just want them to understand where they're at with this.
Yeah.
Well,
'Cause that was
if I could speak.
Yeah.
And I've given this quite a bit of thought, and I'm sorry to hear that we don't have any other monuments other than this one. We do?
Yeah, King's Landing, there's a Veterans Monument.
Okay. One of the reasons when I looked at this spot, I thought was one of the things, if we're going to do more monuments, there is some room to add additional monuments right there at this spot at the library. Behind the library, due to some generosity of a lot of citizens, they're about to build the Village Green, which is another center of town, if you will. Also, there's an opportunity to work with our children, who it's important that they understand what our history is and what sacrifices people have made. And I think you have a chance to do that easier than you do out here on a busy street. And just driving by both places, you zip right by this place because the light just changed. The traffic's pushing you down. That's a different place. Now, how safe it is, I'm not certain, but I think it's a good place to put it. It is obvious, and those are my thoughts on that.
Anyone else have anything?
Actually, I feel very similar to Judy Sullivan. I will not vote for this motion to place it at the library. I think that we need to have a more visible, I've been convinced of that, a more visible and more secure place for it. I like the idea of continuing to explore possibilities in the front of the fire station municipal building complex. I'm not sure exactly where that would be. I, for one, would be willing to support expending some funds to make that happen. I think this is an issue we've all given a lot of thought to. I don't think there's anybody on this council, and probably nobody in this room, that doesn't have a lot of respect for veterans in general and a lot of respect for what that Civil War monument stands for. I was offended by the comment that we do not have respect for that. So that's where I am.
As much as I'd like to, as much as we all look forward to this coming to a resolution that's a win-win, I want to make sure this is a permanent solution that we're looking for. This is a permanent placement. I think it is incredibly important to make sure we're doing justice for all, you know, especially the monument. And I'm absolutely in agreement with Tom and Judy.
So,
Well, I'm going to have to agree too. Well, so my concern with what my three brilliant counselors have prefaced with is I'm really concerned that we compromise, put it in a worse position because we're trying to leave the tree there. I don't think that's a good solution. I think we really want to look at that place. If this is, I'm worried about vandalism. I really heard that and that worries me about putting it down by the library. And no, I don't really want to come down on your porch and watch that, but I believe you.
I'll be down. I'll be down. Okay.
But I think this is going to be there for a while, and I think it's really short-sighted of us to just make a compromise and do a worse thing. I'd rather we do the best, optimal, plant some more beautiful trees if this one has to come down. But I would take down the tree if necessary. I would not let that stand in the best position. You know, talking to counselors, you are going to drive by, right? When somebody talked to me and said, "Did you know about that other monument?" I said, "Other monument on Main Street? I never," yeah, because I drive by. So there is that. Although here you have students that walk by. This is a really busy walkway for children. And there's a lot of footpath, which is great. So it's going to see more probably pedestrians there than anywhere else. But I think we want to make sure we do it appropriate. And if we're going to spend more money, I'd rather we cut down the tree and put some benches around it.
Yeah, I could live with that.
But I agree. I think we need to spend the time to make sure we're doing the right thing and explore all options with that. So it may mean the tree, but right now I just think it's a matter of exploring the options.
and Jeff, did you?
I'm good.
Okay. I will just add.
I don't think
that-
either spot's a good spot, but
Really? Where would you put it?
I would just add that when I went around town to look at different spots and I looked at the Orono Public Library, I did that with the utmost respect for this monument. I thought it was a place that you could walk around it, you could appreciate it. I'm sorry to hear that there's more vandalism down there than I thought there was, but that it was not in the effort of pitting a tree against the monument. I would love to save both of them, and if we can come up with a way to make the tree stay and have the monument be in a respectful place that people can appreciate it and not drive by at 90 miles an hour or 30, because that's the speed limit. 25, well, yeah. So I guess at this point then, having said my piece, is there a motion to table?
I move to table this issue.
Okay. So
Until the results of the water infiltration.
So you table order
will you table it or vote it
15197.
down? I mean, just vote it down.
Okay, all right.
And then
All
we'll-
the.
I'll
I
second-
move
I'll
whatever
second
Tom
the
Perry just
table.
said. Okay. Yeah.
Let's just.
So do you want me to, I've got a move and a second to table, or do you want me to just take the vote? All right. And forget the table, you never heard that.
You don't want to, you're withdrawing the table.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I agree with both Toms.
So we're going to revisit the whole thing.
No, we're gonna vote this one down.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote on Order 15197. All those in favor of Order 15197? All those opposed to 15197? Okay, it is opposed unanimously.
So
All right,
it's-
so we will continue.
The monument is homeless.
The monument will, no, it's in the fire
It's winter home.
station.
The
and-
monument is currently in the fire station and it
Oh,
will
yeah, but-
move to a secure location at the new Public Works facility.
Okay.
So we will continue this discussion. We still have some business left, so if you're going to have comments, if you could take them outside, please. All right. Moving back to...
Public consent agreement.
Okay, we're moving back to the consent agenda. Is there anything?
Yes, there might be. So I would like us to read out items 15185, orders 15185 and order 15188, please.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I was going to say, Cindy.
Yes, I do. Could I ask you all to take your conversations outside so we can just finish this business? Thank you. What Councilor Haggerty had stated was he would like to take Order 15185 and Order 15188 out of the consent agenda and deal with it in a moment. So I will take a motion to move the consent agenda with those two items taken out. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
180.
Second.
185 and 188?
Yes.
Correct.
All those in favor of the consent agenda without
those
those two? Minus those two. Passes unanimously. The reason Order 15188 was taken out of the consent agenda is that I did not get to Councilor Coons in time to ask him if he would like to do that service. So he has asked for it to be tabled so that he can check his schedule.
I was gonna
So, Ms. Councilor Coons, would you care to motion to table this? Order 188.
Since it would be too self-serving for him to do it, I'll move the table.
But I will second.
Order
Okay.
15188.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor of tabling order? Thank you. And Councilor Haggerty had a question on Order 15185.
We've been doing the bus for a while. I don't recall us having an agreement with Bangor to do this. And so when I read it, I said, I don't recall this, and what is it? So that's what I just wanted a little explanation.
Black Bear Express is part of the Community Connector. The Community Connector is run by the city of Bangor. We had a contract, it expired. I needed to sign one immediately so that we could continue coverage, which is why I signed it and put it on consent to you affirm. Yep, the terms are the same, everything is the same, it's just a renewal.
Move
All right.
approval of
Thank you.
Order 15185.
I'll second it.
Tom and Jeff. All right. All those in favor of Order 15185? Passes unanimously. Moving on to new business, Order 15196, order awarding a bid to Maine Earth of Hamden for Godfrey Drive electrical improvements in the amount of $208,145.77, and further authorizing the town manager to expend up to $26,854.23 for other project-related expenses, including entrance signage, engineering, contract administration, for a total of up to $235,000 taken from the SRD $60,000 and EnvisionNet $175,000 tax increment financing district funds. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Sophie.
This is a project that was discussed during the capital budget, capital investment plan, and also FY16 capital budget appropriation. Council approved $235,000 for the contract, for the project, which involves redoing the wiring, some of the conduit, the power supply, and some of the lights that are actually getting ready to fall over on Godfrey Drive. There's a letter in your packet from Mandy Oliver, who acted as the town engineer in this project. She created the specs. It was a public bidding process. We had 5 vendors. We did ask for people to bid 2 prices, one for doing it this spring, this fall, because we're concerned about falling light poles, and one to do it in the spring just to see if it was going to be considerably cheaper. Only one of the vendors gave us 2 prices. Everybody else said it would be the same amount regardless of when they did it. And that was Elco Electric, who had a base bid of $770,000 with a $500,000 credit if they did it in the spring. Looking at our needs, that still wouldn't have been low bid. So we are recommending we go with Maine Earth at $208,000. The other pieces of that are for the sign. Because of the type of work that's going in, we do not have staff expertise to do the inspection and contract administration. So that is the other piece to get us to the $235,000.
Council have any questions? Nope. All right, I will take a vote then on order. I lost the order. The order. 196. All those in favor? Passes with Jeff not being here. All right. No, we're done with that one. Thanks. We're moving on to future agenda items and items of concern. Judy, do you have any?
You know, I did at one point, but my mind, they all went away.
That's what we like to hear.
Another day.
Tom?
Yeah, I was burned out as everybody else.
Okay. Tom, no. Sam? Mark? Well, I have something. The Orono VZ Water District trustee term is expiring on 12/31/15. There's an advertisement for interested persons that will go out shortly, but those interested are encouraged to apply. And if you have anybody that you know that...
Is that Mr. Smith's?
Yes.
Is he we don't know.
He would still be in the running just as everyone else. So, moving on to public petitions. Don't think we have any. Public comments. Susan's got one for us.
I've got more than one comment. This mic was left here.
I'll take care of it, thank you.
I've got, it's actually a couple of comments that kind of connect. I recall at the previous meeting, Ms. Maynard had mentioned kind of like Orono population in terms of the affiliations residents have, and you know, such as it being a college town, and you know, just kind of she mentioned how many people are affiliated with the college and how many people are not, and I was in Ms. Sullivan's position at the last meeting. I was too exhausted to remember that I wanted to speak up at the end of the meeting to mention this. That though I have, you know, I'm one of those residents that's kind of, I'd say I'm a little estranged because I don't have immediate nuclear family with me. And though some of my family members, my relatives, attended the university, I myself attended academics elsewhere. Both in Boston as well as in Detroit as well. And so I wanted to speak up about that, being, hey, I'm a resident, not the you know, typically there's like the family population and college population, and it's not as though those things aren't my interest, but my academic community is shared elsewhere, and the family hasn't happened yet. So yeah, there are a few, there's some diversity to the town that occurs that should not be forgotten about, because I mean, sometimes, I mean, I'm all for school spirit. You know, when I was in Boston, I ran around with my academic shirts as well. You know, and I was very pro-academic, and I still am supportive of people, you know, having, you know, educating themselves and having personal development, which are, you know, crucial. However, sometimes within this town, it being a college town, you know, sometimes the university is, no pun intended, overbearing, making a person a little bananas. I don't wake up until 3 in the morning, honestly. Yeah. So I thought I'd simply mention that there is that dynamic to the town. For a person such as myself, it's a little like, what about, you know, it's a little estranging, and I thought I'd mention that. And so segueing into another conversation that pertains to social concerns. I had an incident, like, I think it's like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, two and a half, earlier in the month. I had a situation where I was like sprinting into Old Town with people, which though this is Orono, not Old Town, it's in walking distance for me. So it's like a social dynamic within the vicinity that I find a little concerning. I was sprinting into Old Town, and I walked all the way to Old Town in 45 minutes, which is pretty darn good. And I had people anticipating my arrival and awaiting me. And I was walking in a crosswalk. I had a light on my bag, and a female started driving into me. And I had to start yelling to inform her, "Hey, lady, you're driving your vehicle into me." And I'm like 2.5, 3 feet into a crosswalk. And if there are parents listening to the recording of this, perhaps have the children leave the room at this moment. Okay. And after the person drove into me, it was a female, and she proceeded to call me, quote, a slut and a psycho. Which, you know, I mean, that's really surprising to me, because honestly, I haven't had a date in well over 5 years. So in terms of, gosh knows where the quote slut was coming from, and I really haven't gone out all that much. And I just find that really concerning. I mean, you know, fortunately I wasn't injured physically, you know, but I kind of get concerned of the social dynamic in terms of where exactly such a behavior, you know, is coming from a female, especially when like a week or so later, you know, I'm reading reports in the Bangor Daily News pertaining to many women in the Bangor metropolitan vicinity have been having anxieties to the extent of not going to their doctors for gynecological examinations. You know, and like a lot of women in the Bangor metropolitan vicinity are not getting their gynecological exams with like there's like a
Susan, I'm really trying to be respectful, but we're really tired. If you could go to your last point.
So, you know, my point is I'm having like a social concern as to like what type of shaming, you know, is being, you know, maybe occurring, you know, towards and amongst females within the vicinity. You know, because males aren't the only people to behave such a way. You know, I mean, females get just as hostile as males do. You know, and so that's like, and honestly, it's not a pleasant, you know, it's not a pleasant experience to be harassed. I mean, granted, this is America and people have freedom of speech, but when does freedom of speech cross over into harassment? You know, I mean, harassment really is not welcome. You know, I mean, if a person's got a problem or a concern about a community member's potential promiscuity, I think there are more appropriate ways to address such a topic with the individual than a barrage of hostility. You know, and as for women, I think if women are being harassed to the extent of, like, you know, terrorized to not receive the medical attention that is needed every 5 years to annually. You know, if someone's attacking a person, if someone's being abused and verbally harassed, I think, you know, I just want to say there are people who will support a person. You know, and if a person's being harassed and abused, speak up, call police, reach out to a neighbor if necessary. You know, there are resources to assist a person. And that's why I mentioned that.
Thank you.
Now, to be vocal, because, you know, I'm not tolerant of abuses. Like,
No, either are we. Thank you.
So.
Thank you very much, Susan. Anyone else have any public comments? No.
The only comment I have is if counselors have the tablet that the town provided, could you please drop it off with me? And if you don't have it with you today, could you please drop it off in the near future? We found a flaw in the way that we set it up, and we need to do it again, and then we'll also do a training for folks.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Have a good evening, everyone.
So, is your answer to the
Until the very end. Thank you. Waiting for the happy part.